Okay, good afternoon and welcome to The Real Me, Chapter 10. This is a Thursday edition. We're going to connect it to this week's Parsha. Here in Israel, Parsha is Masei. I still don't know what Parsha they're doing in America. I always thought that Hukas Baal Balak they combine, but it seems to me that they didn't combine them. I don't know. I think maybe this week they're going to combine. If they're doing Matos this week, usually Matos goes with Masai, Matos Masai. So it makes sense that if it didn't apply to you in America, my previous weeks, this week should apply to you. And we're going to try to connect Parshas Masai into chapter 10, the real me. There is no connection in the book because nothing to do with the Parsha, but I'm making it fun. I'm connecting it. So you get a little bit of the book, you get a little about me, and you get a little about Parshas Masai and how they all tie together. This chapter is called The Bond with Hashem. We talked about in the last chapter, how do we experience joy in Judaism? The ultimate joy, the Sefer says, this book says, is to cleave to Hashem, to establish a relationship with Hashem. He explains it further in this chapter, what it means to bond with Hashem. He draws on an analogy of the fact that it says in Pirkei Avos that a person, everyone is created, every person in the world is created b'tselem Elokim, and Klal Yisrael are called the children of Hashem. So the special relationship between a parent and a child, he talks about. A parent, Chovos Levavos says that the good that a father does for his son is meant for his own good, because the son is a piece of the father. And fathers and mother generally love their children, and they'll do anything for their children. He even brings an interesting example. And it's a true example apparently. I have a hard time imagining this. The opposite I've seen many times, but this is the example. Another example is a true story with Talmud Chacham. Sounds like a Haredi guy. A distinguished individual holding a Torah position and the author of important Sfarim. Machaber Sfarim. This man had a son born to him in his advanced years who at the age of 19 joined an Orthodox sect that differed from his Hashkafa. So I'm assuming he was probably Haredi, Litvish, Hasidish, and his son, I guess you'd call it going off the derech. He became modern Orthodox. He became Dati Lumi. I'm trying to fill in the details. I don't know what it is. At first he protested, right? He wanted his son to come back, to be Litvish, to be Haredi. But after a short time, on one clear day, the father decided to join the same sect. Imagine a big rabbi, big Rosh Yeshiva. His sons go off the derech. And you know what? He says, no, I love my son more than my frumkeit. And then he goes and he becomes Dati Lumi, modern Orthodox. Would you even hear such a thing? He becomes modern Orthodox. Now you're talking about secular. He's Orthodox, the son, right? He would take off his kapata, take off his top hat, and join, not his top hat, he would take off his Hamburg. He's a prominent Rav, a Rosh Yeshiva maybe, and he's joining his son. I don't know. How is this even possible, he asks. And he says it's very simple. When the father saw his son going in a way that wasn't acceptable to him, it developed him in an internal conflict. His emotions were split. On one hand, he was against his path. But on the other hand, his son was carrying part of himself on that very path. This was a very unpleasant feeling. The solution was to convince one of the halves to change his mind. First, he tried to convince his son, and when he wasn't successful, he had no choice but to convince himself. I find this really hard to believe. And then he goes on. This is the reason why many Litvish parents react so strongly to the son who decides to become Hasidish. This I've seen. Right? People become more Hasidish because their children become more Hasidish. It also explains why there's often so much of friction in a secular home when the children become about Tshuva, right? This happens a lot, right? Parents sometimes are not even Jewish, the child's Megayah, or the parents are secular and the person becomes Tshuva, or the parents are modern Orthodox, Dati Lumi, and the child becomes Haredi. This you see a lot, and you do see the parents. I don't think they change themselves. I don't know if they always become Haredi. I mean, this is a situation in my situation where I grew up in a modern Orthodox household, and I went more to the right, more Haredi. I went very to the right at one point in my life. Over the years, it did hamper the relationship a lot. It strained the relationship when I was becoming very to the right, very frum and very Haredi, and it did strain the relationship a lot. But even while I was still very much to the right, I felt it was important, the mitzvah in the Torah, kibbud av v'em, and also it's a nice thing to have your parents are maybe the closest people you have in this world besides your wife. I wasn't married at that time, so these are the closest people you have. If the parents die, you sit shiva for a whole year as opposed to other Zion Krovim. So the closest relationship you have is parents and children. Maybe a wife is closer when you get married, but So it became strained, but I wanted to resurrect that relationship, and I have, thank God, we have a great relationship with my parents, and I can't say my parents became more Haredi. I mean, every one of my family became a little more to the right, not as much as me, um, but my parents definitely, words they'll say or terms they'll use, they're still modern Orthodox. They're still subscribed to that, but they're modern Orthodox with a positive outlook on Torah and mitzvos and things like that. And I think to a large extent, a lot of the modern Orthodox community. I mean, it's really been split. The modern Orthodox community. There's no really no old-fashioned modern Orthodox community. It's really been either you go, semi-secular, or you become more to the right, which is like this melting pot of Hamish from American culture, whatever it is. Everyone's sort of in this big melting pot. I wouldn't say my parents maybe were Hamish, but and more, my father wore a black hat. The first and only time he wore a black hat to my wedding, to surprise me to my wedding. That was a nice thing, to wear a black hat. He has it somewhere buried in his closet. I don't think I'll ever wear it again. But he has become more he started learning Daf Yomi, He learns Daf Yomi, and listens to my shir sometimes. He was actually on my shir, that when I went to America like 7-8 months ago. He's coming again in a month. A month and a little more than a month. He's going to be coming here, and hopefully he'll be on some of the shiurim. So it's going to be a special guest at my father. Thank God I have a great relationship with. So I'm happy about that. But he talks about, parents and children, and Hashem, we're like the children of Hashem. And just like the relationship we have between children and parents is the strongest relationship, people want to connect to the parents want to connect to their children, and children, he also mentions, want to connect to their parents, and therefore, he says, the ultimate relationship is with Hashem. We're the sons of Hashem. We're all Jews, are all the sons of Hashem. So, the way to have, a relationship with Hashem, he says, Amuna at the end of the chapter, live with Hashem, to have Amuna, Bachavakuk, Tamida Malachas, to have Amuna Hashem, and you should always have Hashem in your life. Just like a child thinks of how it's his parents' life. If parents want to have a child in their life, he mentions it's important. It's nice to have children living next to you. Parents want to have children living next to you because it feels good to have your children next to you. So the same thing with the relationship with Hashem. We should always think about Hashem before you have something. You need something. You ask something from Hashem. If Hashem gives you something, you thank Hashem. You start singing Joe Newcomb's song, thank you, Hashem, if you made it big in the stock market, or you closed a big deal in real estate, start singing, blasting a thank you, Hashem, in your car ride home. Have Hashem in your mind and always think about Hashem. He says it's not so hard. There are many people who live like this. It's not so difficult to live with Hashem. It just takes practice. And he says when we live with Hashem constantly in our mind, our Torah and mitzvahs are infused with joy. Realize how each mitzvah act is such a privilege, right? Giving pleasure to the Holy One, blessed be He who is the greatest accomplishment in the world, which is the greatest accomplishment in the world. We are serving the Infinite One, who is far above any mortal understanding, and who loves us far beyond our capacity to comprehend. That's how he finishes the chapter. That is what he says about being happy, and that's the conclusion of what he says about being happy. Last chapter mentioned the Ava Hashem, the Yira Hashem, the bonding, the Dveikus to Hashem. He's mentioning just on a simple level, Hashem's our Father. Thank Hashem, have Hashem in mind, ask things from Hashem, always have Hashem in mind like He's your Father. That is what the Sefer says. He does talk about, there's something he talks about here which I'm not going to get into. I want to connect it to the Parsha. He talks about sports. Spoiler alert, I'm not going to get into this. He says very bad things about sports. He says it's like Avodah Zarah. So sports, I firmly disagree with that. I think sports. I'm going to connect it to the Parsha in a second. That sports, there is something truthful to sports. It's not avodah zarah by any means. This week's Parsha is Masei. Masei is the beginning of the Parsha. Talks about all the travels they did. 40 stops. I don't know. They did in the Midbar. The whole point was just to pass 40 years because they had a klala. They couldn't come 40 years to Eretz Yisrael. Why does it mention all these 39 places? They didn't do anything in these places. Why were they traveling to these places? And more importantly, why is the Torah mentioning? We mentioned 39 places, even like singing like a tune. Like these 30, they didn't do anything there. Why are these places so significant? I want to talk about the importance of place. in Judaism. The word place is translated as makom, hamakom. Makom we usually think of as Hashem. Place, there's a novel called The Alchemist. I don't know if people are familiar with this. It's actually the story, I don't know, either the mashal in the Frum books has been taken from this story or the other way around. The story is basically about someone who has a dream. He's in Spain, and he has a dream that there's a hidden treasure all the way in Egypt, and the pyramids of Giza or whatever, and the pyramids in Egypt, and he travels all the way there. It's a hard travel, this was many years ago, and whatever, he meets different people. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is he finally gets there, and some people take him captive, and they say, yeah, and he tells them, this is the dream. That's why I came here, because I'm going to find the treasure here. He say, hey, it's so stupid. I had a dream also. There's a treasure buried, and he told them the exact place. It was a church, the church where he had the original dream. So he had to travel all the way to Giza, the pyramids of Giza, in order to realize that what he was searching for all along was right there. I think there's a song of Rodenberg like that. It was right there. He didn't have to travel anywhere. He traveled to a certain place, but the places are not so significant. They're really a mashal for a place in your heart, right? Your heart is your love, your emotion, your enjoyment in this world. It's all in your heart. What do you have room for in your heart, right? You have a place in your heart for yourself, other people, close people, friends, things that make you happy. Place is a very important thing in Judaism, and that's why it specifies all these places, because a place is very important. And he talks about here, he says, sports is so stupid, it's a waste of time, who are these people? Some goyim over there that are playing some sports, right? They win, you're so high, they lose. No. What teams do you usually like? Usually people like the teams where they live, and let's say you're from New York, you like the Mets, you like the Jets, you like the Knicks, you like the Rangers, like me. Those are your teams, so you're connected not just because of the team, because you share a place with that team, and the team is celebrities from representing that place. So you feel a connection through that place. He mentions parents like to live near their children. I think it's true. I mean, I don't live near my parents. I'm sure my parents would love to live near me, but they live there, a couple other my siblings. But it's hard on parents when their children are far away, because when you share a place, and it's not like when you share a nationality, because that's the same place also. You live in Israel with people, you live in America with other Americans. The shared nationality gives you a sense of camaraderie. It's a real thing based on the place where you are. There's also an expression to place a person, right? I can't place that person, right? Because he doesn't have a place in your heart, right? The physical place, or placing a person, or it even comes to things, like if you didn't know that brie cheese goes great with Chardonnay wine, because they come from similar regions in France, and eggplant parmesan goes great with Lambrusco wine, because they both come from the Parma Regina region of Italy. That place produces the same thing, so they go together. So when it comes to things, when it comes to people, when it comes to the actual place, it's very important, because they're important just on a level, that way, we're wired as human beings, that things in a certain place, we're connected to that place, or connected to other people and other things through that place. But also, it's a mashal for our hearts, and we have a place, and that's the ultimate question. What do we have a place for in our mind? Like the alchemist, right? The real thing you're searching for, the real treasure, is in your heart. It's really in there. It's inside of you. That's where your treasure is. In your heart, in your place in your heart. What do you have a place for in your heart? And even though he says at the beginning of this chapter that only a child thinks of me, right? He sees the whole world through me. As he grows older, he incorporates more friends, the whole community. I think this is bogus. I think that just like the child, the simple way, that's Tmimus, the simple way the world is that who is more important in your life? The most important person in the world. He says everyone loves themselves. That's true. Most people hate themselves. There's an episode of Seinfeld, Jerry Seinfeld. He finally finds a girl he's going to marry. He goes out with this beautiful woman. Every episode has another beautiful woman. And then he meets someone who's not so beautiful, and he wants to marry her, right? Because he does the exact same thing as him. She's exactly the same. They both go to that coffee shop and they order cereal. He loves it. And then finally he realizes, what? I really like this girl, but I don't like myself. He hates himself. So if you don't like yourself, how can you like someone who's similar to you? because you don't like yourself, it has to start with you. You got to love yourself first. Most people, the hardest person in the world to love is yourself. And that's really what it's all about, your heart, your makom, right? Ben Adam makom we translate as mitzvahs between you and Hashem. The truth is that makom, ultimately a person has to make a decision. I had to make a decision also, and this is why I became more, I went back from being ultra Haredi to moderate Haredi, or Chardal, or modern Haredi. I call myself a modern Haredi, if there is such a thing. Because I had this conversation once, a couple of years ago. I always believed you gotta do everything for Hashem, 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 Dveikus to Hashem, do this for Hashem. It wasn't making me that happy, but my wife asked me one time, I was in America, my parents at breakfast, she asked me, I was always, I made decisions, a lot of decisions. They're always like, what does Hashem want? What does Hashem want? What can I do for Hashem? And then she asked me, like, we're eating breakfast. I'm always trying to figure out, what does Hashem want me to eat? Have a little bit of enjoyment, but not too much, because that would be taiva and things like that. And she tells me, what do you like to eat? And I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't think about it like that. Like me? Like, what do I like to eat? So that was really eye-opening for me. And all of a sudden, a new world opened up for me. And I'm like, wow, that's what Hashem probably wants. Hashem wants me to be happy. He wants me to be happy. And the only way I'm going to be happy is to know myself, to know who I am, to figure out who I am, what I really like. If you don't know what you like, you don't know which food you like, you don't know which clothes you like, you don't know which types of people you like, you don't know which types of cars you like, you don't know about the world, you don't know about yourself, you know the things you like, not which Gemaras you like, not what's your favorite Gemara. I mean, it's okay to know what your favorite Gemara is. My favorite Gemara is Kedushin, but it doesn't. That you got to know about the world, and you got to know how you fit into the world. What do you like? And that is Ben Adam Makom. That's a true Ben Adam Makom. The place, your heart, right? Like the alchemist, right? It's in your heart. It's right where you are. The treasures are buried. If you look inside your heart, you discover what's inside of you, and that really is the journey I've been going on. I think it's been about 4 years now. Probably about 4 years now, where I've gone through a journey to learn about the world, because I was very uninformed about the world. I did a lot of Googling, a lot of research about the world, and trying to figure out what the world looks like, just geographically, the things in this world, the people in this world. I did a lot of research, Googled everything, and I mean, that's the best education. You don't have to go to college, just Google everything. Like me, I can give you the best education in the world. Know about the world, because you got to know about the world. You got to know which cheeses are out there in the world. You got to know which wines are out there in the world. You want to pair the wines and the cheeses, you got to know. So I know how to pair wines and cheeses. I may be the best sommelier in the world. But the point is that you got to learn about the world, and you got to bring it into your makom, into your heart. Bring it into your heart. That's the Ben Adam makom, the ultimate Adam makom. Because Hashem wants you to enjoy this world. Hashem wants you to enjoy, and the way to enjoy it is to find who you are, where you are. You're right here. You're right here as long as you're right here. As long as you know who you are and you're doing what you like, and you can't be an unfair person, right? To be an evil person and to be mean to other people, take advantage of other people, is a problem. That's not you. You don't really want that. You also don't want to be taken advantage of. So you can't be someone who's a Nebuch case. So you got to be a cool guy, but you can't take advantage of other people. You got to do what you want, what you really want, be a makom, and that's why the Torah emphasizes Parsha Masei. It emphasizes these makomos, right? It's important. The place to emphasize the place is really important. In just technical terms, it's important because you connect with people and teams and foods from the same place. And secondly, it's a mashal to the real place. The real place is in your heart, right? A person doesn't have room for so much in his heart, and the most important thing that should be in his heart is about his own desires, his own likes, his wants, your own desires, your own wants, your own likes. And every person should look introspect inside himself what they really want and what they really like. And then you'll find the true makom, ben adam makom, between you and yourself. Ultimately, everyone has to make the decision. Do you do it for yourself, or do you do it for Hashem, or do you do it for some other thing? But I think the best thing is to do it for yourself. Not only will you want it, but Hashem wants that for you also. Have a great week and a good Shabbos. Bye.